But the story didn't stop there. Peter introduced us to Martin Williamson, the visionary behind Healy Enigma. To bridge the distance, we sent Chris Hollier, a veteran of the kit car scene and former Kit Car magazine editor, to conduct an exclusive factory interview with Martin.
Right, hello everyone. A little bit different for you today. I'm here with Martin Williamson and the Enigma sports car, Mazda MX-5 based.
Freudian slip there.
Yeah, inspired by the Austin Healey 3000. So this is Martin. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yep, okay. Hi, I'm Martin Williamson, founder of Healy Enigma. There's a million backstories to it, but I'll keep to the truth. No, I'm joking. Yeah, when you had the Freudian slip there about the Austin Mazda, really the reason why we started it was because we, as you know, we've done many incarnations of Healey replicas over the years. Some good, some bad. No, not really, but
there's been a few.
Yeah, there's been a few. Yeah. And amazing things happened over a period of 20 years, I suppose. But this particular one it all started really from a joke where we were in Italy and we were talking to this guy. We went to visit a factory in Modena, which was the old Magusta factory, or the Tommaso Pantera factory, and which became apparent that Rover had just bought it for $5 million. This must have been circa 2001. And we jokingly said, we've been making Healey replicas for years. You own the name Austin Healey. Why don't we make one? And this Italian works director guy took it literal and put me in touch with two of the Phoenix 4. Who I contacted and ended up going to Longbridge, where, the rest is history, so to speak, until they went bust. We signed a contract with them that we'd style a body to go on one of their particular chassis, and that's what we did. And then about a week before we were about to ship it, the really early car, that is, it turns out they went into liquidation. So I sort of sat on it for 5 years and then restyled it again and decided, I've gone to all that trouble, we'll make a new one, which we did. And by that time, I've been introduced to some friends in Latvia who still to this must be 10, 12 years ago now. And to this day, as you know, they're in the workshop and, we've still carried on. But we're doing other things as well. We're not just doing Enigmas.
Yeah. So just to add a little bit of backstory to it, I've known Martin for 40
years.
Is it really that long?
It's nearly 40 years, yeah.
Oh, God, okay.
Yeah. We don't look old enough, do we,
No,
Chris?
we met at a company called Sebring that used to make another quite different Healey 3000 replica that was an import from the States.
Yeah.
I was there assembling cars, Martin was there doing sales.
Yep.
And that lasted a while.
Yeah.
But that was a long while ago. They've now long gone. I think somebody's bought the moulds for those, but they don't seem to be by anything anymore.
No, I think those sort of days have gone. It was quite a complicated build by today's standards.
But a good reputation.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That was the important thing.
That's the whole reason why we took it on. Yeah.
And still got good residual values.
Yeah, definitely.
So that it's not part of the genesis of this car. It's nothing really to do with this. Is a completely separate thing.
Yeah.
But the Healey, slightly modified Healey replica theme has carried on. It's not a copy of a Healey. No. It's inspired by.
Yes.
So it's another version of a modern day Austin Healey.
Yeah, I think the joke at the time was when you were the way that the Sebring was done and being in the sales side of it, it was like, well, if I did it myself, I'd put this right or I'd do this differently. And that's basically what we did. And we gave it a more retro touch to it as well. Although we have considered doing a classic and retro version of this, but at the moment, I think this one has sort of come into its own a bit now.
Yeah. And like a lot of manufacturing, once you've got a good recipe, stick with it rather than develop it too much. Yeah. Development costs lots.
Yes.
Always has.
Yes.
Production is where the profit comes from.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll have a little walk around the car in a minute, and I'll let you point out some various bits and pieces of details.
Yeah.
But just as an overall, it's Mazda MX-5 powertrain. but it's also available with the Lexus V8 in it as well,
Yeah.
I believe.
This particular one is Mazda MX-5 Mark III running gear.
Yep.
Having said that, obviously, because it's running a Lexus V8 engine, we had to upgrade the braking and the diff and stuff. But as it turns out, Mazda, with their infinite wisdom, basically did the same thing with the RX-8. So the hubs fit the RX-8, larger brakes, diff, everything else. So everything was an upgrade that bolts nicely onto the MX-5.
Yeah,
So,
and it's wonderfully idiosyncratic. That's exactly what Austin's did.
yeah.
With the original Healy. It was parts bin engineering, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And now Mazdas have done the same.
Yeah.
British Leyland were renowned for it when they had door handles off of Marina on this
Yeah,
and everything
yeah.
else. Whereas Mazda have very cleverly incorporated all the same bits and thought, well, okay, that'll do there, that'll do there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
Incidentally, but we are actually now, that with the two that are being made at the moment, they are actually Mark IV now.
Ah,
Yeah.
right, okay.
That's not officially
Yeah,
known,
okay.
but
Sometime in the future.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in the, not too distant, hopefully, because the customer's been waiting a long time. But that's because halfway through, one of the cars is like they did the Mazda MX-5 Mark III 3.5. The first car is a 3/4 because they wanted the electric power roof,
Yep.
which was perfect on the Mark III. But all the running gear and the interior doors, it's been a bit of a nightmare actually combining the two. Is Mark IV.
Right.
So and it's an automatic Mark IV as well. That's what started it off. But also on the Mark IV, the roof soft top looks the same, but it's actually smaller. So, but the next car after that will be a soft top.
Right.
It's actually a soft top Mark IV, but it's actually running a Lexus LS 430 with a 6-speed gearbox. So we never make it easy for ourselves. Well, no, it's the customer. Can you do this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we can.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. Okay.
Can I or do I want to?
Yeah, exactly.
Two different questions, yeah.
So yeah.
Right, so looking around the outside of the car now in a bit more detail,
Yeah.
obviously Healy-inspired grille.
Yeah.
Very obviously.
Yeah.
But that's where a lot of the differences stop.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. And probably, well, this particular one being a V8 has got the extra power bulge in the bonnet.
Yep.
Whereas the 2 litres have got a more Healy-inspired, slimmer air duct. So yeah, the similarities probably stops there. But
And one of the biggest visual differences is headlights.
yeah,
They suddenly make it stop looking like a retro car
Yeah.
and start looking like a very modern interpretation.
Yeah.
Are they sourced from anywhere particular?
these particular ones were they're mini period. I think 06 to 2005. I think. But they are North American, believe it or not. So they've got the all-day running lamps, and they're tinted, and they've got the halo. So they're not your standard mini lights.
Yeah.
These are made for the American aftermarket.
But then you've got all your illumination in one area rather than
Yeah.
having to have extra lamps here, extra lamps there.
Yeah, yeah,
Everything's in one place.
Yeah,
Keep
yeah.
it looking neat.
yeah.
So let's have a look around the side.
Okay. The gills on the side, in actual fact, they're now. In fact, do you want to hold a second? I'll just show. Sorry.
Okay, so now we're around the side of the car. The gill vents on the side,
Yeah,
you've now got a carbon overlay for. Perhaps
Where-
you can show us that and how it works.
we have indeed. Which that fits in there. So because most of the parts on the car now are carbon, but they're non-visual. So this is obviously visual, and but the sills, the bonnet, the boot, the bumpers, the door skins, they're all now carbon fibre. The next bit carbon fibre is the bulkhead piece. But at the moment, the only original parts is the front clip and the rear clip, which are at the moment GRP, but they will be carbon fibre in the future. But obviously, we're just taking weight out of it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying you've saved, was it about 100
kilos, yeah.
By the way, I mean, that's a big
Well,
weight
yeah.
saving.
But that's because the car, it gets its torsional rigidity from the fact that it's got steel bulkhead, steel outrigger, steel floor, and steel rear bulkhead as well.
Yeah.
So you get absolutely no
No scuttle
movement
shake.
in the chassis at all. And it does have a backbone chassis, but with steel outriggers. So it's literally planted on the ground
Yeah.
with a low centre of gravity.
And wheel size, are we on 18s, 19s?
18s, yeah.
18s?
We sort of max out at 18. One of the reasons being because on the 2 litre cars with the Mazda engine, they were running on 16, 17 inch on the Mazda, and it does tend to blunt the acceleration feel because you've got the bigger rims.
Yeah.
Although you're still getting the same speed out of it,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel quite so crisp. With the V8 engine, obviously, in the torque, it's a different ball game. Yeah. So to be honest, it seems to sit nicely on the 18-inch rims. And with these particular 11-spoke wheels, you get a nice windmill effect when you see it going down the road.
Yeah. And also the fact, because they're not a completely open wire style wheel, you don't see too much of the brake disc in the caliper.
No, that's
so it keeps it looking in period with the rest of the car.
It does, exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if we wander back a little bit more as well.
Yep.
And you were saying the door skins are now carbon as well.
Yeah. Well, obviously for continuity with the roof, the fact that we've gone with the MX-5 roof because it's so fits so well and so snug and waterproof.
Yeah.
It's not just fitting the roof. You've then got to have all the rubber seals because everything's designed to go together. And then you had to have the Mazda windscreen, and then we had to mould the Mazda windscreen surround, which we put a roll bar in, even though you've got the roll bar here.
Yep.
And then obviously that meant we had to go with the door. But on the earlier car, the door was only sort of 3 foot something. And we'd lost the sense of scale because the Mark III door was actually 4 foot long, so it made the front of the car look snub-nosed almost. Yeah. So, but we've actually now brought the front of the car longer, but we've put another 75 mil in here, which sort of spaces the door nicely and gives it a longer, sleeker look.
Isn't it funny how 75 mil doesn't sound very much until you stand back and look at it?
Exactly. Yeah. So it always looked a bit like it was snub, but that's because the original door came down here.
Yeah.
But obviously, you benefit from the 4 foot door because obviously you've got a lot more room to get in and out of the car.
Yes.
So you get that nice solid feeling here because it's all steel bulkhead up in here.
Yep.
Because it takes the strength with the roof and the roll bar, and we just reskin it with our own skin to get the swage lines in. So.
And with nice parallel door hinges, you don't get the leg scissor. that we used to experience
on the Sebrings
all those years ago.
It's almost like it was ahead of its time with an uplifting door.
Until it caught you across the shins.
Yeah, because it did weigh a few pounds, didn't it? And some cars, well, only two, but it's the options there. Some people tend to go for the Healy look with the two-tone paintwork.
Yes, above and below, because you've got a nice brake line, haven't you?
Yeah. But this white obviously benefits from just the single colour, I think. You could probably put a pin line in there, but to be honest, it looks pretty good as it is. So,
simple, that's the thing,
Yeah, keep it clean lines.
Okay, so we'll hold that and then we'll move round to the back.
Okay,
now we're looking at the back end of the car. Rear lights are obviously a very big visual difference from everything that's been before. So what are they?
What's the story?
Yeah.
The story was we went with Rover, obviously, when we were producing the prototype body, and it was all based upon the fact that on the contract that once they approved it or they're happy with it, we had free run of their parts bin, or they would take up the tooling costs for a rear light suitable. But obviously, because they obviously liquidated, we carried it on. I thought, well, we didn't want to go with the aftermarket round lamps because they date it very much. So I looked around and I looked everywhere, couldn't find anything. Then just happened to be behind a Nissan Micra one day at the lights, and the penny dropped. And when that penny drops, that's it. So went out and bought a pair, and we only had to slightly change the angle of the back end in order to accommodate them, and job done, because you've got your indicator, your high vis and your fog lamp, and they're obviously kite marked and approved, so no problem.
Perfect.
And even you've got you can use your Mazda
high level brake light.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and the only other addition is we've got a rear camera, because on the ICE system inside, most people, because you sit low in the car, when you're parking, you've got the lines on the parking assist camera, so that helps with parking.
And I suppose people have got used to that now, and it's not a novelty anymore. You get out of your current BMW, you're used to having a reversing camera, not looking in the mirrors anymore, so it needs to be
peace of mind, isn't it? Yeah. So that solves that.
Nicely integrated exhaust, tucked up into the rear valance.
Yep.
And it's on a 21 plate. So let's explain a bit more about that. It's not on a Q plate. It's not a kit car. It's got no pretensions to be a kit car.
No.
It's a new car.
It's a new
to
car.
all intents and purposes.
Yes. Yeah. Obviously, you're allowed the one second-hand part, which is the V8 engine. But everyone we buy, even though they're low mileage donors, this particular one's LS400, but we're now using LS430s. But the the prerequisite is we don't buy any donor engine over 75,000. It's a running car with an MOT, and then we hoik out what we need. It goes back to the factory, and then it's completely stripped down, and then we get Rock Auto. Couldn't think of it the other day. Rock Auto engine rebuild kit from America. It's like $600.
But it's everything.
It's everything.
It's
everything. So it's all documented, and then with the obviously the labour costs, it comes out about £3,000 to rebuild it. And then obviously that helps towards the new registration because everything else is new. So
and you can honestly say then, hand on heart, to all intents and purposes, it is a completely new car all the way through.
Yeah, with your new chassis,
because
new body.
That's been rebuilt to as new spec. Everything else has been done all the way through.
Yeah, the gearbox has been rebuilt as well. Yeah. So, but actually, we actually get exchange gearboxes. So So that's we don't mess about with those. But yeah, it is. So it's worked out quite well. It's almost like it was all meant to go together.
Perfect.
So
can we have a look in the boot as well?
Yeah, I'll just open it up. Obviously got electric release on your key fob, and it just goes up. It'll stay up.
Yep.
See, it's got a latch thing there.
Lovely. So, I don't know how much of that you can see, Laurie, but there's a big old boot in there.
Yeah, it goes right.
And even though it's all black,
back.
so it's not going to pick up very much, it goes right the way back, and it goes right the way on both sides.
Yeah.
And did I hear you right say it fits a set of golf clubs?
Fits a set of American golf clubs.
Yes.
So and that was obviously part of the spec for the for US market, which was Rover's predominantly market.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, 500 units a year. That's just 2 in every state in one dealer.
Yeah.
So that was the lifesaver we hoped at the time. Yeah. There's a cover that goes over there as well. A GRP cover.
And if you do want one of the rarest cars in the golf club car park, you've probably got it.
Yeah, well, there is a couple out there, and they say don't make any more because we're quite happy.
There's Ferraris everywhere.
Well, they get invited into everywhere, don't they?
Yeah.
So
just to be different.
Yeah, so they've enjoyed that. There's a story there with Jay Leno somewhere, but I can't remember it all. It was about I think that he was at a show because one of the guys that was distributing it over there. His partner went to school with Leno, and Leno came onto a stand, and he was, where's mine then? And,
I've heard of these.
Yeah, and I think Leno said, oh yeah, where's mine? And then Pat turned around and said, yeah, but you've got to pay for yours, Jay. That's how exclusive they are. So, hey ho.
Right. Now, engines, the important part.
Yeah.
Now, this is obviously a V8 powered one.
Yeah.
Rather than the 4-cylinder, which is also another option.
Yep.
Now, did you say it's definitely a Lexus engine? Is this the 400?
This is the 400, yeah.
And the one you're doing now is the 430?
430, yeah.
So tell us a bit more about it and
well,
how it ended up in there.
Well, the 400, obviously, it's a throwback to everyone used to love the Rover V8, but it had its time. Yes, the next generation sort of went for BMW, but the problem with BMW found that once you start dismantling a BMW, everything stops working. When you start taking the ABS system off, the engine management system doesn't seem to want to work. But the beauty of the Lexus engine is, obviously, it's virtually a copy of the BMW engine. You could say one's a copy of the other, but you can virtually do anything to it, and the ECU will just pick out the parts it doesn't want, and it still runs. So, and that gearbox runs on a 4-speed auto gearbox. I think it came out about 280 horsepower. But we went for the 430 because that's up to 350 horsepower with a 6-speed gearbox.
Big difference.
And quite frankly, and the torque.
Yeah.
The torque curve is much higher. So I drove a 430 the other day, and I was quite surprised. The top end, it just keeps on going. So. But the earlier cars, I think there's about 8 with this 400 engine, which is brilliant, beautiful, reliable engine. And the other beauty of it is you're getting 28.5 to the gallon. So
which makes it a practical proposition.
It makes it worthwhile.
Yeah. But if you wanted the real economy, you could put the 4-cylinder 2-litre in it.
Oh yeah.
And then you're up into the mid-30s to the gallon.
35, yeah.
Yeah, so it really does become a super practical car.
It's strange because you drive a 2-litre and it's a sort of nimble, flying around sports car and more forgiving perhaps because it's got a higher revving engine and the 6-speed box. But when you put the V8 in there, even though it's the same car, well, apart from a few tweaks on the suspension and the braking system, in your mind though, you feel like you're driving a Mustang
Different
convertible.
experience.
Yeah, it gives you a totally different experience.
Yeah.
So it depends what you're looking for, you know.
Yeah. Now it's a reasonably tight squeeze in there. It's not crammed in, but it's reasonably tight. So servicing work, I mean, it's not how much servicing it's going to need. It's a Lexus engine. It's not going to have your fingers in there every day.
No.
But I think you said for major stuff, it comes out the bottom.
Yeah, it does.
Rather than trying
You
to
drop
take
it on the
out
subframe because we modified the Mazda subframe, and I think it's 8 bolts. Obviously, a couple of hoses, your heater hoses, your fuel lines, and it drops out the bottom.
Yeah.
And but to be honest, for servicing, you can get to the plugs, you can get to the air filter, okay, you can get to the oil filter. Yeah. So it's you can do most of it in situ. It's only if you had a massive failure that you'd want to take it out the bottom.
Which is exactly the way all major motor manufacturers assemble the cars and deal with it afterwards anyway.
Well, we've actually done the same thing. Yeah. But even things like lambda sensors, you can get to them from underneath. Yeah. You can remove the headers. The only thing that you'd want to drop it out for really is the starter motor, because somebody at Lexus decided to fit the starter motor under the fuel rail in the middle of the engine, which an engineer, isn't it?
That's why mechanics hate to design this.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, just from a packaging point of view, great place because it wasn't doing anything else.
Yeah.
But as a roadside repair, really?
Yeah, impossible.
I've got to take the whole top of the engine off.
Yeah, you can. I actually did in the early days one because 10 bolts, the whole front came off, and you can do that bonnet off. But as I said, you know, major surgery is drop the whole thing out the bottom. Yeah. So, but other than that, it's fine.
And you were saying that on the more modern one, you put the 430 engine in it. Yeah. Many differences? Because I mean, it should be the same generation of engine.
It should be, but in actual fact, for some reason, they decided to fit the oil pickup filter housing at the front of the engine instead of the back. So that meant another modification to the subframe. But what we found on the Mark IV, they've significant changes on the Mazda Mark IV subframe. So it's actually wider and thinner. So we haven't had to do any modification on that one. So you live and learn. But apart from that and slightly different engine mountings, it was fairly mundane. And also it sat a bit higher. But again, there was room to drop it in on. Well, we actually had to make a fully sculptured carbon bonnet for that one to get round, because it's got a higher plenum on the 430.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, as we were opening the bonnet, I can't believe how light this actually feels. The fact that it's all carbon, that there's nothing to it.
No, there's no weight. Yeah, I think it's 2.5 kilos we took out the bonnet. It's ridiculous. So, but as I said, lightness is everything, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to have one or the other, either power
or
lightness.
On this particular one, the only other change we made is on a hot day, because you know, if you're sitting in traffic, all we've done, you've got the existing electric fan on the inside, but we fitted another fan pushing on the outside with the old sort of adjustable fan. It's peace of mind, because people are funny. That, you know, I don't know, if you've got your radio going and your fan going inside, you can't always hear the fan come on, and you're watching the gauge. But so just for peace of mind in traffic, you know that physically you can set that to check it's working. But you've got double fans. But other than that, they're pretty docile, really.
Excellent. Okay, so now we start looking at the interior. Yeah. And this is what sets it apart from so many other specialist cars. Yeah. This looks like it is, rather than looks like a really well-detailed, modern-looking interior with all the fittings you would expect from your mainstream production car.
Yeah. That was the remit, really, again, because obviously it was aimed at a market of a grand tourer. So you can get 2 weeks luggage in the boot, or your golf clubs, it depends what you're doing with it, and shoot off down to Spain or south of France in it. It's got aircon, heated seats, it's got your ice, got sat nav, Bluetooth, good sound system. So all the toys that you would want, and finished off nicely. So when you got the top down, you've got your Alcantara seats on your door cards and your carbon dash.
And it's with all the carbon extras on it and the way the dash lights up, you've lost the MX-5.
Yeah,
which is really important. I think we said before about there's people making some BMW Z3 replica, Ferrari replicas based on Z3, and you look inside and you can see the Z3 straight away and you think, oh, it's just not quite right. But you've lost all that, and it's now it's its own thing with all the controls again you'd expect from something completely modern with a proper flat screen entertainment system. Decent aircon.
Yeah, and then you've got these, you've got bespoke dash, which we've
Party
tricks. Sort of like your, your fighter pilot look, which is always, you're flying at 5,000 feet, but that's only altitude, isn't it, in the Alps? So, so it just gives it that extra sort of something and takes it away from sort of Japanese look. But the later one, the newest one we do at the moment, again, that's mostly Mark IV, so it's got the big screen in the middle and the menu dial down the bottom. We've really gone overboard on that one. This one's now 4 years old, so. Right. But we're always trying to improve the interior because that's the main thing you see and gives the car away. So. Yeah.
And from a drivability aspect, with the side windows up, because you've got the draft deflector here and the headrest, you're going to be able to, I mean, as I've driven this car at 70, 80 miles an hour, there's no wind buffeting, there's nothing. It's just nice and peaceful, roof down, getting on with it.
You can drive all year round with the windows up, the roof down. You've got the face vents, because again, they've got a fantastic heater in these cars. And with your heated seats and the face vents, provided you've got a scarf on, you're warm as toast.
Yeah, very nice.
In fact, my neighbour went down to Lewis on Monday in his. I was quite surprised.
Yeah,
and he said
it's not been warm.
No. So he was quite happy with that. So so it is supposed to be an all year round car. Yeah. Because if you're going to spend that sort of money, then you want to be able to use it as much as possible.
Well, you can justify the investment more, then, can't you?
Exactly.
You start spending £80,000 or £100,000 on a D-type replica, which you can only use on sunny days. Where you're spending a fifth of that. But you've got a car that you can use literally all year round. And your wife can drive it because it's very drivable and everything's modern. So much more practical proposition.
Yeah, we've got people who've had theirs 6 or 7 years, because they just said, well, what else am I going to replace it with? So it's got that unique value as well.
Yeah.
So, what is the meaning of Enigma? It's more than just a name. It's a symbol of continuity, a bridge between classic British motoring elegance and modern-day craftsmanship. It's a tribute to the Healey 3000 spirit, reimagined for today's roads. But most importantly, it's a story of people, builders, dreamers, and friends who keep the legacy alive.
So if you've been paying any attention at all to what we've been doing and looking in the background, you'll realise the Enigma's not the only car in here, and there's quite a lot of other very special cars here as well. So Martin, tell me about your other interests.
Oh, my other interests, well, basically, goes back to my apprenticeship back in '76, working for Rank, and obviously ended up for a while at Pinewood Studios. It was actually in '76 when they were making The Spy Loved Me, and being a big Bond fan, as everybody was in those days, I thought, oh yeah, one day I'm going to get one of those, and but it was on really poor apprentice wages. So I met a guy called Rodney Rushton, who went on, as you know, to become Sebring with me. But prior to that, we had another life, well, Rodney did, doing all war vehicles for all the war films, Indiana Jones films, Mummy, and all, you name it, he did it. And across the paths with the likes of Sean Connery on numerous occasions, and Roger Moore and Michael Caine and people. And so that gave me even more impetus to build up a collection of Bond cars.
So the Bond is way up there.
And well, today now we actually hire out cars to Bond themed things. If they go all around Europe, to be honest. So but this is the home, if you like, the base.
Right. So let's have a look at a few of them.
Yeah.
Let's start. We'll work our way round.
Okay. Well, this one is an AMV8. It's an Oscar Indy X-Pac 580, they call it, which is a blueprinted engine, which is 420 horsepower with the ZF dog leg gearbox.
Right.
So it is a proper X-Pac 580. It actually was, originally had the larger wheels, the roller wheels and the big chin spoiler at the front, but it didn't have the blacked out grille because obviously individual tastes when it was purchased originally by the King of Kuwait. Right. So it left the factory as a left-hand drive, but within 6 months it never got taken to Kuwait, stayed in Pall Mall, and then it came back to Aston factory and was converted to right-hand drive and then upgraded to X-Pac 580 engine, which has now got a blueprinted 420 horsepower dynoed engine. And then obviously it ran two or three owners. It's had a complete mechanical restoration by Aston Engineering, and I bought it because it had a very good history and very good mechanical service history, and everything been reconditioned. But it was in this colour, the blue of the Jensen, which is a Rolls-Royce Peacock blue.
Right.
So and it had a cream interior, which was looking tired, with the blue piping. So, but I bought it for the basis that it was a good Bond car. Yeah. It was an X-Pac 580, but it didn't have the later flared arches. So the Bond car had the narrow arches, and then converted it to the BBS alloys and had it completely stripped back to bare metal, repainted in Cumberland grey, which is the infamous Bond colour, fully retrimmed with black leather. All the wood was redone, carpets. So it is absolutely, and then in actual fact, it was done by the same people who did the Bond cars for No Time to Die. So it was done literally just after them. So,
and in case anybody hadn't noticed,
if
you look down the side, you'll see it's got the optional ski pack.
Yeah, it came with a special extra.
Yeah.
Again, they did the originals, so they made me a set of skis for it, which just finishes the car off.
Yeah.
So so that's the Aston there.
So let's move along one.
This one is a Hertz rent-a-car spec Mustang Mach 1 1971. Again, if in the film Diamonds Are Forever, obviously Tiffany Case, she goes to Hertz rent-a-car, you see her pick the car up and then Sean drives it, and this is the spec you would have got in 1971 with the skinny wheels, Ford skinny wheels in red, bog standard, although the car in the film was running on a big block Cobra engine. But this is a standard Cleveland 351, but it's still a quick car, to be honest.
Performance.
But when you watch it in the film, to get the speed and the power slides out of it, they obviously had to go with that engine.
Yeah.
But to me, it's a lovely car. It drives lovely, and quite frankly, I've always wanted one. But it's been fully restored as well.
And you say this is Karen's favourite car?
It's Karen's favourite car. Yeah.
Yes.
The only thing is, it's got a black interior. In the film, it's got a red interior. But this car originally was red with a red interior, but somebody, for some reason, brought it to the UK and decided to paint it yellow and replace the red interior with a black interior. Right. So we're actually waiting from what they call Pony, forget the name of the company, PJ Pony Parts in the States for the red, vermilion red interior kit. Right. So and then it will be full stock Bond. But yeah, it's Karen's favourite as well.
And if we move on now to the archetypal, the James Bond car.
Yeah, well, you can't have a collection without a DB5.
No,
I did toy with the idea of doing a replica because, again, in the latest film, they are carbon fibred BMW stunt cars, and that wasn't. I could have saved a lot of money had I built my own that way, but it just wouldn't have been the same thing. No. So
and with the chrome wires as well, if you want to come around and have a look at the side profile, that front three-quarter view, that is everything an Aston Martin should be.
But this car is absolutely pristine. It's as it came out the factory, probably better than it came out the factory, to be honest. In as new, same under the bonnet, everything. It'd probably give Concours a run for the money. Yes. In fact, I might even put it in this year.
Yeah, why not?
So
Nothing to lose.
I didn't last year because I was up against someone I didn't want to upset him. So, and then obviously,
and then let's
17-year restoration, but it's good to go. It starts on the button and drives lovely. Yeah. So then you've got your Vanquish S.
Yes.
Well, this one's an S, but in the Die Another Day it's a Vanquish. But this is slightly more power, slightly more. There's a few changes to the gearbox, etc. But I think the early Vanquishes had a few problems. So this is the one to get, but it's in Bond spec with the tungsten silver and the black interior. So again, that's a nice car, comfy seats, It's a flying machine again. And it's only done 18,000 miles, this car, so it's very low mileage.
Nothing. Yeah.
No.
And tucked away discreetly in the corner.
Yeah, this one...
Heffel's finest.
Yeah, well, this one will be coming out in a couple of weeks because obviously it's 50-year anniversary of Lotus Esprit, and it's earmarked to go to a major display. So we've got to get it out, finish putting the rest of the trim in, tidy up bits of trim that got messed up when we were putting the trim on there. But it's all cosmetic. It was just put in here really just because we had an open day and people wanted to see it. Obviously the tailgate's not fixed on because we've got to put the engine in, which is sat on its test jig in the workshop. With these cars now, we found that it's such a faff taking the engine in and out, and chances are when you put it in, there's always a problem with the clutch or the carburetors. So we have our own test jig, so we run them up.
Perfect, and set everything, sort it all, and then pop it in knowing it's going to be a turn the key.
Exactly, yeah, because it is a nightmare otherwise. But this particular car was actually burnt out. It's had a whole new back end because they only, rumour has it, and it's probably not far off the truth, they only made 4 with chocolate brown interior and Monaco white, which is the Bond car spec from the film. And this one languished in someone's garage for about 30 years, but he kept it for spares for another one he had. And it came up on eBay, and then it was quite surreal because the guy, when I actually bought it as is, it said not for the faint-hearted. So I bought it. When he delivered it turned out he worked for a company that we had down in Brighton. So we struck up a friendship, and but it was missing lots of parts. We had to make parts for the dry sump engine because you can't get them anymore. And these compomotive wheels, we ended up getting them 5-axis scanned and rebuilt on a 5-axis CNC machine with aircraft grade aluminium, which was by my friend and your friend Mark Van Dreel.
Mark Van Dreel, gifted engineer.
It's very much so, yeah. So he did it in his stride.
Are you aware of his latest stunt bike riding escapade?
Yeah.
Whoa, what that man can't do on a superbike.
I know. I mean, at 53 years, well, he was 53 last time I saw him.
Yeah.
And he was like #2 stunt rider in the country.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How many different lives does he want?
Yeah, exactly. I think I'll point what he's on.
Anyway, well, now on to
this one. Yeah, this again. This was the other Aston. I always liked this car because I think I was about 10 or 11 years old when the film came out in '69, and it just looked so cool flying around.
Yeah.
And so I decided to get one. This particular one was in Heartbeat actually, and there's a book on it which the previous owner made up because, as you can see, it got crashed in one of the episodes. Police guy pulls him in, and he ends up crashing into a Triumph 2000, driven by Mr. Carver of the Bill at the time. Yeah, so it was then literally over 17 years completely stripped down. So it's got a good pedigree. All the outriggers were done. The engine was all done. The only downside to it, for me, was it had an automatic gearbox, which literally sucks the life out of the power of this engine. So it's now been converted to 5-speed Tremec, which Aston do a really good conversion. As you can see, it's got the DB5 gear knob and gator, very light, and it's so improved the motorway cruising now.
Yeah.
When you get it on, it sits lovely at.
Because you've got a proper overdrive feel.
Yeah.
Whereas the old automatic gearbox would have been a direct drive top gear, wouldn't it? So you really needed another gear.
Yeah, and well, what those early band boxes are like. They're just sluggish. Yeah. So it's really sprightly now. So again, we've got a '69 early spec DBS6 with the wires.
Beautiful colour.
Yeah,
Beautiful
in olive green. Yeah. So Bond spec. This one's a bit out of sorts because it's not Bond, but to me it's the pinnacle of the Lotus Esprit, the S4S. So obviously they brought the V8 out, which this model was designed for. Had a few early teething troubles with the V8, so they carried back on with the 4-cylinder engine as a charged cool, and they were getting 300 plus horsepower out of it.
So why put a V8 in?
Well,
when you're getting that kind of power.
The crazy thing is the V8 was capable of 500 horsepower, but at that time, to get a differential gearbox for it, they were using the RM1 Renault gearbox, which was really maxing out at 300 horsepower,
Yeah.
and so it suited this charge-cooled engine, but you were on your limits with the V8. Obviously, I think now they do, upgrades to the gearbox. It's like everything else, tooling and everything, and engineering are much simpler and cheaper now for short runs. So, but this particular model, as I said, is my favourite because power to weight ratio, that 300 horsepower and that weight, will certainly keep up with a couple of these Astons.
And one of the most stunning colours that Lotus ever used.
Yeah, azure blue. Yeah,
fits the car perfectly.
Yeah, with the cream leather and the wood. I always like the wood.
Yeah.
I preferred this year till they changed in '99. So it's just one that you wonder why it's sitting there doing nothing till you take it out and drive it, and then it all comes back.
Yeah.
So.
And then we have the Jensen.
Yeah, well, this one here, it's quite rare in as much that if you look on the front badge, it's a Series 4, and they only made 8.
Wow.
So what it is, it's actually a 1976 end of the run Jensen Interceptor Series 3 J Series, but when the Saint Series was allocated in the 90s, obviously Roger Moore had the Volvo 1800S.
Yes.
Ian Ogilvy then, in the return, had the Series 1 XJS. And then when it came to Simon Dutton's time, they were looking around and Jensen was sort of re-emerging, trying to relaunch the Interceptor Series 4. So it seemed to be the ideal gentleman's carriage, and they supplied a car. So Jensen bought from a customer a late 76 car with a wood dash, and they up-spec this car to Series 4, which were the making at the time. So it's got the louvered bonnet, the different front grille and the front spoiler, and some of the other cars had the Recaro seats, but this one actually was just recolonised. And the other feature is, I've actually got a letter from London Weekend Television to Webasto, can you please fit an electric sunroof for filming in Berlin? So when you Google the Saint series, with Jensen Interceptor, at the beginning of the film, you'll see this Jensen pulling up at the front of this hotel in Hamburg, I think it is, and that's the car that you see. And it's got a plaque in there as well.
Still, is it a 383 or a 400?
It's the 7.2.
Yeah. Okay.
7.2 V8.
The big block Chrysler.
It is, yeah.
Heavy engine.
Very heavy engine. Very smooth, but it's not going to set the world alight.
No.
Again, it's funny because that engine more suits that 3-speed gearbox.
Yeah.
But again, the fuel figures are, they're ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
if you get it in double figures, you're going downhill with a tailwind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then the DBS.
Yeah,
to finish the tour.
DBS. Yeah. This one belonged to Mr. Bakeoff, Paul Hollywood, which we bought. I had one before, but I wanted a manual. So this one's the manual gearbox, and the difference between the manual and the auto, and the driving style as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know about you, but I'm old school. If you can imagine what it used to be like back in the day when you drove a 2.8i Capri, you could slaughter it in second and third gear, couldn't you? Well, imagine trying to drive a paddle shift Capri like that. You just wouldn't have the same experience. So, and it's the same with these. When you've got the manual and the torque in that engine.
Yeah, you've got complete control there.
Oh, God, yeah. You put it in second.
Trying to do its thing.
You put it in second, it'll pull away up to 90, really.
Yeah.
And it's just phenomenal. So, and it's Bond spec Casino Royale Silver with the Launch Edition wheels, manual. So, as I said, I had one before, but I'm not bothered with the later cars because, to be honest, to me, this was the pinnacle for them, really. They all started to look a bit the same. And then after that one, the only other one is the BMW over there. We had the original one that survived from filming in London. I drove it around for about 6 years, and then it went through a funny story, which I won't go into, but look, just suffice to say, I don't own it anymore, unfortunately. But I bought that one to mock up as a Bond car. The sunroof will go in, and then there's a dummy 12 rocket pack to go in the roof, which just gives it the look. But that particular car has only done 7,000 miles, so it's a 1999 spec car. 7,000 miles. It's like brand new.
Wow.
So, and it does start on the button. I do run it for an MOT every year and quick run down, but to be honest, it's built to last. If you look after them, it's built to last.
Yes. Unfortunately, it's in the dry as well, which is going to help dramatically, isn't it? It's not sitting over wet grass and stuff.
No, exactly. So, and it always has been garaged.
Yeah.
So other than that, and as you know, we've got the other S1 over there.
Yep.
Esprit and the Submarine that we've made.
Yeah. And
we've got 2 out on with Bond actually at the moment. So they're abroad. The Ski Lotus from the For Your Eyes Only.
Yep.
So
well, when that one comes back here,
yeah,
I'd love to come again and come and have a look at that one.
Yeah.
And then perhaps we can do another few bits at the same time. So.
Yeah. Well, it will be back here. It's actually coming back this month. Again, Lotus borrowing it for the 50th anniversary with the Submarine, full scale Submarine, and an S1. Then they're coming back here for a while, and then they're going off to Germany for a show for 6 months. So as I said, you know, that's. Rodney used to do stuff like this with Castle Films, and now my contact in the industry, who does all your Netflix, BBC, does them all. I do stuff with him as well. Brilliant. So I just like doing it, really. You know,
well, I mean, what fun to have a collection like this. So.
Yeah. Well,
anyway, we'll wrap it up for now.
Yep.
Thanks for your time, Martin.
No, you're more than
Much
welcome.
Appreciated.
Yep.
If we get the opportunity at a later date during the summer, maybe I'll get to do some driving shots on the Enigma, just to jar a few. But for now, we'll wrap it up there.
Yep.
And it's come out really well. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks Martin and Chris for this wonderful tour, and thanks for watching. Please consider giving us a like, share and leave a comment. It really helps.